Hello everyone, we are continuing on with our NHL team season preview series, and today we're going to be talking about a bunch of jerks, that being the Carolina Hurricanes. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're new and you're interested in hockey. If you're new to hockey, if you just like the video, stick around if you're a little bit on the fence. I want to do this as a full-time career, but anyway, let's talk about the Canes. So the Carolina Hurricanes just had as good as a season as you could hope for, going 54-20-8 for an eye-grabbing 116 points in the regular season, good enough for third best in the league last season. That was all good and dandy, but injuries and net helped derail this promising season, with the Carolina team losing in the second round against the New York Rangers in 7 games. So, after some roster changes in the offseason, what should some of the storylines be for Carolina this season, and what should their expectations be, or at least my expectations of them? We're going to talk about that. The first storyline here is going to be about the changes they underwent since the last season and how this could impact the team. Looking at the departures, it's notable to point out Nino Niederreiter, Vincent Trocheck, and Tony DeAngelo. Niederreiter left for Nashville in free agency, and that was after spending the past 4 seasons in Carolina. And while I don't think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of the world, he was a good depth piece, a good reliable secondary scorer for them, and he has been there, especially the past 2 years in that role, with 2 20-plus goal campaigns to help bolster the scoring side, and had an impressive shooting percentage of 16.3% in that time. Now for Trocheck, his absence is a little bit different, as they could feel it really more on the forecheck, Trocheck with the forecheck, but yeah, they could feel that as his ability to get goals down low, maybe the gritty areas, would be a issue for them this season as they lose a little bit of center depth. And for DeAngelo, while he's certainly not a player you feel 100% sure about keeping or even having on your team, considering his ability to not get along with people, he was able to have a very good season as an offensive defenseman for Carolina last season before being shipped off to Philly, which could actually be good if his abrasive personality comes back to life in the city of brotherly love. And having said all that though, did the Carolina Hurricanes make any major additions? Yes, they did. 2 names really do stick out of this list, and they both come from the Pacific, as they acquired Max Pacioretty from the Vegas Golden Knights and got Brent Burns from the San Jose Sharks. By getting Max, they're getting a great goal-scoring winger who's a little bit older than you'd like and is dealing with a torn Achilles, with his return looking to be months away from now, which really does sting, unfortunately. As for Burns, they're getting a guy that luckily had some salary retained, which makes his trade more palatable. Burns is still an offensive blue liner, big name offensive blue liner I should say, but isn't the big goal scorer like we've seen in previous years, and will be though the talk of many supporters and detractors of this trade, as he's 37 years old and still expected to play in a top pairing role with shutdown defenseman Jacob Slavin, while also playing on the top power play unit. I could see a resurgence of sorts for Burns on a better Carolina roster than San Jose, which could be a great thing for the veteran, who still finished 12th for D-men in points last season after playing more minutes than any other blue liner last year as well. So he is able to play a lot of minutes and able to still put up points. Still, you can see there's a lot of faces that are out the door and some big names that came into the door, and having that ability to adapt and play with the new guys while dealing with the losses is going to be big, and I expect them to have to handle this quickly. Now, we will see if Burns is a fit early on with his minutes, because he's going to get to play a lot and probably in the role you'd expect him to be. But Max could be either a rusty veteran that's struggling to return back in the second half of the season, or a massive spark for his new team come playoff time, or around that time, assuming they make it. Moving on to another storyline though, we have to talk about the guys in net. It's practically always a talking point for any of my videos, for season previews, and for good reason. The duo of Frederik Andersen and Antti Raanta were rock solid in net this past season, and they were able to win the William M. Jennings Trophy, and a just very good year for both of them before injuries killed it for their possible cup run. The question then becomes, can these two stay healthy for a full season? Andersen is 32, Raanta is 32 as well. Actually, I think Raanta might be 33. One of them is 33, one of them is 32, and they both have had issues, especially as of late, staying healthy. Raanta has dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. Andersen has played a lot of games and then has felt some effects from injury. They're going to have to stay healthy if they want to guarantee success, because defensively, the Canes are an above-average team, which means with above-average goaltending, you're going to get very good results, and that is good because they have proven goal scorers as well. Luckily, the team could sustain probably one guy going down for a bit, or one of them just rotating in and out if they have the injury bug, because they have second-round pick Peter Kochetkov, who is possibly going to fill in for one of these two like last season in the playoffs. I saw him. I really did like him. I think the best game that he had would be the debut against the Bruins. He stopped 30 of 32 shots and had a 938 save percentage, and with that he allowed a very good game, or I should say he was just good in general, and with a team that allowed the fewest shots against per 60 and the second fewest scoring chances against per 60, it bodes well for even a youngster to take on a bigger role with the team sooner rather than later, unlike other situations in it where you feel like, okay, maybe we're not in the spot where we'd want to throw out the young guy or we'd want to keep him in a limited role. I think they'd be okay to make him the starter tomorrow if they had to. Still, the way Freddie played last year with the goals against average of 2.17, you'd be thrilled to have him as your starter if that form holds, as he could possibly play 50 plus games for you. It really depends with age and health, as he was a guy that regularly played 50 plus for Toronto. I think there was even a few seasons he played 60 plus. One year I think it might have been 66. Now I can't promise both will be healthy though, but I feel very good about this situation in net, knowing what's in front of them and the coach they had in Rod Brind'Amour. So, believe it or not, I think you should sit back and believe in the Finn and the Dane. As for my final storyline to follow up with this team, we'll be talking about center on Andrei Svechnikov. I know for a fact I talked about him. It was in my preview 2 seasons ago. Might have been last year as well. For good reason. He is a former second overall pick, and people feel like they're constantly expecting more out of him, which is crazy because he has had moments. Imagine looking at what he's been able to do. He has been a guy that's been there, done that, and has proven himself multiple times. He actually has a 30-goal season underneath him, which is insane. That happened the first time this past season in his career, and he nearly hit the 70-point marker. Will the progress continue? There is hope, because he has been able to secure himself a long-term future in North Carolina and has helped put hockey back on the map, or I should say on the map in general. Within the region, yes, they have had good moments before in franchise history, but really since I had been a little bit older and into my teenage years, Carolina was that team that was in the league, probably were going to have bad attendance and be a team that might not be the worst of the worst, but they weren't going to be a team that was regularly making the playoffs. Now, he is part of something bigger than himself, like we said, and his team's going to need him to continue to take another step forwards, being the dynamic duo with him and Sebastian Aho. And while those two do play quite a bit of time together on the man advantage, they weren't exactly terrifying on ice together at even strength. To put it in perspective, they outscored opponents 30-24 at even strength compared to 36-1 on the power play, despite playing about half that time on the man advantage. It's no secret that these two playing together has offensive potential, especially on the man advantage, but he's likely going to end up playing even strength minutes with somebody else as well as Aho. They're going to have to get that figured out and find chemistry with whoever his line mates are going to be. In general, though, he will have to bury the puck more, as HockeyViz has a model where he has been below average as a shooter in terms of the quality of looks that he's getting, but he's not able to bury them. And listen, I am a very big supporter of him. He is only 22 years old, but I do think some are starting to worry about whether or not you're going to get what you paid for with that long-term deal. And it's understandable. If you look at his 30 goals, 7 of those were empty net goals this season. It's not that he's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but for a second overall pick, there are very, very lofty expectations of what a second overall guy gives you and how he should be able to help you win in the postseason. They've been able to win in the postseason, but not a cup run, as we all know. And I think we are looking at him at this point wondering, what is his peak? Are we at his peak? And that's kind of a concerning thing. The good news is, like I said, he is only 22, has a ton of hockey left to play, and he is not a point per game player yet, but I think he could be, and he is a guy that will maybe be a breakout guy this year, or at least get more people to back off about this. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Again, when you score those empty net goals, that's going to be an issue for how much value you provide. But I would say that I'm eagerly anxious about his season. That's how I describe it. Eagerly anxious to see whether he can prove the doubters wrong or not. He's a good player though, so let's see how it goes. So, having said all this, what are my expectations for the Carolina Hurricanes this season? Personally, I would say that I have them making the playoffs. They might not be the roster that is filled with superstars to a crazy degree. In fact, you would argue outside of Aho, do you really even have a star? And some people would say, is Aho a superstar or just a star? It's kind of one of those things. They're deep. They might not have the crazy lineup that other teams do, but they do get the job done. And now, I don't think another 116-point season is in the cards, but they have the other edge, or the edge in general, over other teams within their division, because some teams like experience or dealing with injuries, age, etc. So I do think they'll make the top 3. They limit oppositional chances and have a very good group offensively that might not be super exciting in some regards, but they are able to limit chances, like I said, and get it with guys like Aho. Now, they will have to see as well whether Max comes back from that Achilles injury, because that could be a big factor as well. And although I'm not too worried about their losses, because they've managed to handle the losses of key players before and transition just fine. So I'm going to gamble on this organization, say they're a dark horse to win the Stanley Cup. I know people would argue maybe they're a favorite, because who would you say is 5 other teams that could beat them, excluding Colorado and Tampa Bay. Even still, then, can you pick 3 other teams that would definitely be able to say, oh, they're going to be better than them? I don't know. I could possibly make that argument, but in general, this is a very good team that I would not be surprised if they can finally click in the postseason and get the job done, stay healthy, could possibly lift Lord Stanley. But I want to hear how you guys feel and what are your thoughts on this. I would love to see what you guys have to say, because I think there could be a lot of range. Anyway, let me know your expectations down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and you go love hockey, all right? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.